Hello everyone, I'm Mike Allen from Bird Chatter, and this is Baseball History. In this Bird Chatter video, we go back to August 10th, 1981, when Pete Rose surpassed Cardinal Legends Stan the Man Musial to become the National League's all-time hits leader with a total of 3,631 hits.
1981, bottom of the first inning. Pete Rose faces strikeout king Nolan Ryan. On a 2-1 count, Pete lines a single to left center field. That was hit number 3,630, which placed Pete at the top of the all-time National League hit list.
John, we were there at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia on that memorable day.
People pulling for Rose here at this ballpark tonight. How many people come to that game? There's a youngster. That's Petey Jr. The strike one pitch to Rose. Bouncer to the hole. There it is. Musial has come out onto the field. I say we're happy for you. Congratulations. Hope you get many more. I'll go make it stay another day. Oh, no, that's great. I'm happy for you. Good. All right, good. In Philadelphia, they're celebrating the fireworks. The rousing, standing, throbbing ovation from a crowd of close to 60,000. Pete Rose, whose career began in 1963, at age 40, a true period piece. Surpassed Musial. Next up, Aaron. If he stays healthy, that should come sometime next season. Historic moment by Pete Rose. It's really great. So Pete Rose does it on his fourth at-bat with a clean single.
Fans, I've known Stan Musial for 22 years. I was right here in St. Louis broadcasting the ball game in 1941 when Stan broke in his first big league time at the plate. He got 2 for 4 that afternoon and drove in 2 runs. And I want to say right now, with Stan Musial retiring after 22 years of baseball, speaking for myself, we're going to all miss this man because he's been a great credit to the game of baseball. You know, it's always nice to be sitting on that bench. And when Stan the Man walked up there at that plate in the close ball game, and you're on his side as a pitcher, and I'm speaking for the pitchers on this ball club, I'll guarantee it was a thrill with ducks on the pond when that man walked up the plate because you felt like you had a great chance of winning that ball game, and 99 out of 100 times you was.
This is his last day. They're playing Cincinnati, the final game of the season. The ballpark is packed. He's riding around in a limousine with a Boy Scout neckerchief around his head. Everybody's there cheering, and he's going to play. I'm in the press box and I'm saying to myself, Stan, don't let me down now. Don't have a bad day on the last one. He could have, because he's under something. He didn't sweep all night.
Maloney getting ready. The pitch is on the way. A ground ball up the middle, Rose to his right, a base hit. Musial gets the first hit of the ball game. A single to center. And the crowd gives him a standing ovation again.
Okay, everything's safe now. I'm all set. And then he comes up again in the 4th or 5th inning. It's the last time, because you know they're going to take him out now. Is it one more?
Take a good look, fans. Take a good look. This might be the last time at bat in the major leagues. Remember the stance. And the swing. The pitch to Musial.
A hot shot on the ground into right field, a base hit. Here's Fred around third. Here's a no throw. The Cardinals lead 1-0. Listen to the crowd. Listen to the crowd. Let's see now. Manager Johnny Keene is talking to Gary Kolb. Stan is at first base. He might be waiting for this applause on the hip to die down. They'll tear the joint apart when he trots off the field. He will have gone out the way he came in with a base hit. His first base hit gave the Cardinals a 3-2 victory. Now listen, Gary Kolb is going to replace Musial. There he goes. The end of a great career. A standing ovation for Musial.
The ball is returned to the infield. The Cincinnati Reds second baseman has the ball. And he runs over to first base. They hand it to Hands, stand and shake hands, and they did. And the second baseman, his first year in the major leagues, was Pete Rose.
John and I spoke with Stan and Pete on that special day in baseball history.
In 1963, when Stan Musial got his last career hit, rookie Pete Rose was a member of the opposition, but one of Stan's biggest fans. In June of 1981, with the baseball world watching closely, one of Pete's biggest fans was Stan the Man Musial.
Yeah, great play.
Earlier, Dave DeBuscher talked with Pete Rose about goals and motivation.
Well, I said goals. It was a little strange this year in spring training, Dave, because I didn't know if I was going to hit first or second. Now, you know, I'm usually a leadoff hitter all the years, 16 of them. At Cincinnati, I was a leadoff hitter, and the first 2 at Philadelphia, I was a leadoff hitter. And when I went to spring training, I usually set 4 goals, and they were individual goals, but they were really team goals. And the goals I set was 200 hits, 300 batting average, 100 runs scored, and played good defense wherever I may play. You know, I played all over the field. I played second base, all 3 outfield positions, third base, and now first base. But and if I got 200 hits, I usually would hit 300. And if I did both of those, I usually would score 100 runs. And you know, that's my job, getting on base. I'm sort of a table setter for the guys who knock in the runs.
I agree.
And there's not a heck of a lot of guys. I look at it like this. I don't miss any games. I could get 162, or I could hit 250 and get 162 hits.
The man is going to join us right after this message. Stan Musial. Stay with us.
Stan, welcome to Sports Profile.
Nice being with you, John.
Stan, as the record dwindles to the past now, how do you feel about Pete Rose challenging your record and surpassing it?
Well, well, you know, Pete had a great and outstanding career. You know, he's one of the old-time ball players, and I said many times that Pete would fit in with the Gas House gang. The way he played, he was a great hustler, loved baseball, came to play, enjoyed the game, and that's a pretty hard combination to beat. Plus, he could always hit.
That sounds like you. That was a description of yourself, too.
Stan, don't you think that, you know, the ball players 10, 15, well, 15, 20, 25 years ago are a little different than the modern-day ball players because they had fun in those days?
Well, we did have a lot more fun. It was a slower pace, you know, and we were on the train rise and had togetherness, more or less. It's a different pace today, different game today, but it's still good baseball, and as we, you know, we all love baseball, so I'm happy for you. Really,
Stan, as the magic age of 40 approached in your career, you felt that the career was going to wind down. Now, what happened to you after age 40? Did you find it tougher to hit the ball or concentrate?
Yes, it was harder to get in shape, one thing, and it took me longer to get in shape. And then when the season started, I would not bounce back as fast. Your reflexes seemed to be slowing down, but overall, your legs kind of start to give out for some reason. But overall, the main thing was my concentration at the plate during those last couple of years. I just couldn't concentrate on every pitch. I could. My mind would be wandering about.
You hit 320. Concentrate on every pitch.
But I couldn't concentrate on every pitch, you know, and that's what was hard to do after I got past 40. So we'll just have to see how Pete's going to handle that.
You know, I don't think it's any coincidence why the older players in baseball are having better years today. Like Gaylord Perry was a Cy Young winner a couple years ago. Lou Brock at St. Louis went out with a 300-year. Carl Yastrzemski still plays well. Willie Stargell was MVP in 1979 because I think Stan's right, but there again, I think the older players in baseball today are trying to take better care of themselves in the off-season. The ball clubs all have the Nautilus equipment, and they open the clubhouses and let them work out 3 times a week in the off-season. And I think the older players are smart enough to take advantage of the situation. And what I mean by that is, if I'm not mistaken, if you're a good ball player, you should make the most money in your career the last couple of years of your career, because that's when you got your salary to a certain level. And I think these older players nowadays are starting to understand that, and they're trying to concentrate on keeping themselves in shape during the off-season. I know when I was a kid, we used to always go to spring training. I'm talking about in the 60s. We'd go to spring training. We'd be anywhere from 5 to 8 pounds overweight, and we'd work our way into shape. But now, the biggest difference I found in baseball, I don't know if Stan agrees with me or not, but the biggest difference today compared to the 60s and even the early 70s is spring training is a business now. You know, you don't really go to spring training to get into shape, so to speak. I mean, when we go to spring training this past year as world champions, every game we played was a sellout. And the people, they plan their vacations around spring training games, and they want to see Mike Schmidt play in game 1. They want to see him hit a home run. They want to see him make a dive and play. They want to see me dive into a base. If Stan Musial was playing, they want to see him go 3 for 4 and make a good play in the field. And consequently, I think because of that, the players as a whole are keeping themselves in better shape throughout the whole year.
Yes, I think so too, Pete. Plus, we know much more about dieting and vitamins and health care, and I think all these things put together make today's ball player really, and the old-time ball players who were always in good shape. Like I'm thinking about Ty Cobb. He was way before his time because he worked out in the winter. He didn't put on that extra weight. He was dedicated. He was a scientific hitter. He was way before his time. Just what we're talking about, Cobb is a good example I can think of because he played a lot of years.
Stan, I wanted to ask you a question. You played your entire career with the Cardinals. Pete played most of his career with Cincinnati, and
I tried.
He tried. Well, which brings me to the point. What do you think? You set your records entirely with one club, and which leads me to the question of today's athlete and free agency and etc. How would you respond if you were in Pete's shoes today?
Well, I would think that if the free agency was around in our days, it's only human nature to come out and test the market. It's a natural feeling that, although, you know, I was with the Cardinals all those years, but it's just human nature to go out and test the market and get the best offer that you can get. That's
and somebody wants you really bad enough, or
they wouldn't have had enough money to pay Stan anyway. But, you know, let me explain something, David.
No, I agree. See, I think it's important.
I played 16 years at Cincinnati, and regardless of what the viewers may have read or what you may have read, I wanted to sign with Cincinnati, and the reality of the story was I was never offered a firm contract. And I didn't go through the free agency to try to see the best offer, because in reality, I could have made twice as much money as I make today if I went to Atlanta. I even negotiated with Mr. Bush at St. Louis. And, you know, when I went through the free agency, I was looking for a team who I thought could go to the World Series. Now, the only mistake I made when I went to the free agency, I was negotiating seriously with the Cardinals, Kansas City, the Pirates, and the Phillies. Now, what I should have did is I should have went with the Pirates in '79 because they were world champions. And the Phillies.
Oh, you love hindsight, don't you?
But, you know.
No, but it is. I think it's human nature to want to test the market, and I don't blame you for what you did. If you weren't offered a reasonably acceptable contract, a team you've been with, it's natural you'd like to move.
Well, I would like to thought that if I was playing these days, I'd have been an IM. Instant millionaire.
You remember your last game, your last hit?
Oh, sure.
You remember it?
I remember both of them.
Yes, well, yeah, that was my last season, and we're playing Cincinnati, and Pete was the second baseman. And I remember we had big ceremonies that last day, and I was parading around the ballpark, you know, and we had a lot of good ceremonies at home plate, and I gave a long speech after 22 years. And as I remember riding around home, around the field, we passed the Cincinnati dugout, and I kind of remember Pete sitting there on top of the steps like he always likes to do there, and I kind of remember him just sitting there, and it just struck me in my mind. I kind of remember that incident. So
that aggressiveness was coming out, right? You felt that presence.
What were you thinking about?
What I did is I bugged him and got an autographed ball for myself. I still have it at home, but I'll never forget that day. It was one of the most awesome sights I've seen in sports, because when the ceremonies were being taking place at home plate, they had us lined up on the first base line, and they had the Cardinals lined up on the third base line, and Freddie Hutchinson, the late Freddie Hutchinson, who was a Stan Musial fan, to say the least, told me he wanted me to sit right next to him. He said, I want you to watch this, because I guess Hutch at that time had an inkling I was going to be Rookie of the Year. And he said, I want you to sit down and watch him honor a real man. And I'll never forget the Boy Scout putting the ribbon around Stan's head with the big medallion on it, and then all the proclamations being read. And then we left the field, and that's when they put Stan in the convertible. And I don't know, what was it, a 63 convertible? That's what year it was.
It must have been, because that was the year.
But then, lo and behold, I played second base, and he got a base hit to my left and a base hit to my right, and they pinch run for him. And I don't know how long that standing ovation was, but I could have went and got a hot dog and a piece of apple pie as well.
Well, you know, as I recall it now, we were talking about my last game. As I looked at the box score, I got 2 hits that last game, and I looked at the box score and I said, Pete Rose. Pete went 3 for 6, so he was gaining on me from the very first.
Your last game?
Yeah, so Stan, it was a great day.
As you look back to where you were at the point Pete's at right now, what were your goals at that time? It wasn't Ty Cobb for you at that point in your career, was it?
Now, my most important goal after I got it was in the big leagues several years. Was 3,000 hits was a magic number in baseball in those days. And once I started playing about 10 years, I figured I had a shot at 3,000 hits, and I had my sights set on 3,000 hits. Not many ball players had gotten 3,000 hits at that time, so it was a very magical number in baseball. So that was one of my big thrills in baseball when I did get to 3,000 hits. And of course,
tell them a story about it. You got in Chicago on a train ride back to St. Louis. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, we had I wasn't supposed to play in Chicago this day, and of course we're playing in St. Louis the next day, and Hutchison, who was our manager, I was sitting on the bench, and the occasion arose where I had to pinch hit, and sure enough, I pinch hit and got a double down the left field line to get 3,000, you know. So in those days, we traveled by train, and we stopped at this certain town, Springfield, Illinois, Decatur, Illinois, other towns along the way, you know. So all the fans knew when the train was coming through there. So they stopped, and the crowds were all there, and I'd get on the end of the plane, and I'd give them a train ride, I'd give them a speech, sign autographs. It was like a political game.
You were doing a little stomping in those days.
Plus, when we got to St. Louis, we had thousands of people at the Union Station. All the kids were there. It was getting late at night, too, you know, so I gave us a nice talk and talked to the children, and I told them, because they were so nice to come down to at midnight to kind of meet the train, that tomorrow all the kids could take off to school. I think a lot of them believe me.
In their respective careers. I was surprised at some of the answers.
Well, you know, believe it or not, you're not going to believe the 2 guys I've had the most trouble with over my career. Jim Brewer of the Dodgers. I just didn't pick up a screwball worth a darn, and I was always out in front. And Randy Jones, who's struggling this year, but when he was with San Diego, gave me a lot of trouble. I just didn't pick him up. Those are the only 2 left-hand pitchers I've ever batted left-handed off of. Now, as far as I'm concerned, over my career, the best pitcher that I ever faced, and I had good success with, was Juan Marichal, because he had 5 pitches he'd throw for strikes at any given time. The hardest thrower was Koufax. And I think of 3 guys as the most competitive, and I think Bob Gibson surely fit that. Jim Bunning surely fit that, and Gaylord Perry surely fit that. Now, when I mention those fellas, I don't mean to, you know, leave out guys like Nolan Ryan and Tom Seaver and Steve Carlton, who is probably the best today, and J.R. Richards, before he had his stroke, had the most awesome stuff in the league. And there's been I even got a 5 for 5 off of Warren Spahn one day. That's when he's with the Mets. I could have did it when he was with the Braves.
A few battles with him.
But there's been so many good pitchers and so many great pitchers. John Drysdale was a great pitcher, and Kurt Simmons, who played with Stan. I played against him, and it's really unfair to really rate the pitchers because there's so darn many good ones.
Koufax was a great pitcher for the short time, you know, and he had a great fastball that rose and a great curveball, but he didn't bother left-handers. At least he didn't
Over the
bother
top,
me.
right?
He was straight over the top, you know, and had a good hard fastball and good curveball. But when I played through the years, I thought Warren Spahn was the top pitcher in our era.
Pitchers, you got to give them credit. I mean, you know, there's certain hitters, or a lot of hitters, when they go 0 for 4, they want to break the water cooler and everything like that, or throw their bat. I never do that because, you know, you don't get that many good bats a day anyway. And they go back and they hit their helmets and stuff like that. And, you know, you have to realize if you're a youngster out there, the pitcher is getting paid to get you out. It's just a battle. It's a 4-time battle every night. You go up there 4 times. And like Stan said, you only got to get 3 out of 10 to be successful in this game. Now, if you're a doctor and you operate on 10 people, only 3 of them survive.
Those odds are not good.
He's putting a little extra on it.
Ryan's trying just as hard not to let him get that hit.
Those are 3 hummers. God, he hummed them in there.
I could always hit the preacher because I didn't let him get 2 strikes on me with that spitter.
You know, I like to ask Stan a question. Something that has really helped me as far as being 40 years old. As you know, I played all the outfield positions. I played second. I went to third. Now, I had no idea as many, you know, he was the only guy that ever touched first base more than me in the National League. Now, all of a sudden, I go to first base, and I just fell in love with the position because there's so darn much to do down there. There's so much activity, and I think the older you get, the more they should put you at first base. I think it really puts you, it keeps you in better shape if you play it the way you're supposed to play. Did you really enjoy first place your last couple of years, first base?
No, I did.
I've had games where I haven't had a ball hit to me, and I got 17 times I touched the ball with putouts. And
well, you know, Pete, I played the outfield for 10 years, and I loved the outfield, and I was accustomed to it. So one day, Eddie Dyer in '46, we got off to a slow start. Dick Sisler was our first baseman, was having a little trouble. So Eddie Dyer said, do I mind going to first base and playing first base for a couple of weeks till Sisler got squared away? And I said, no, I'll try that. I never played first base. You know, I stayed there 10 years. But what I want to get back to you, Pete, was this. You're right, first base is a lot of work. You're always bouncing off on every pitch. You're backing up plays. Whereas
cut off, man, run down.
Pitching run downs. It's really work around first base. I'd rather, for my, I used to like to play left to right field, and it was a little easier.
And have a speedy center fielder.
Because I was originally an outfielder. Now, you played a lot of infield. You played second, you played...
Well, it figures he'd like the outfield because outfield is easy when you're hitting well. All you got to do is stand there and think about how to hit the ball. See, outfield is bad if you're in a slump. He was in a 22-year hitting streak. So I asked the wrong guy that question.
Pete, you know that Stan's one of the world's great harmonica players?
I didn't know that.
You didn't know that? That's a little-known secret. Stan, we got to get you going someday. You got it with you today?
I play a little harmonica. I do a little magic. They're kind of fun for me and kind of relaxing. So there's a couple things I like to do to relax, plus a little golf. So that's about it.
John and I want to thank you, too, for joining us. It's a real special pleasure to have a legend, Stan Musial, and a present-day legend, Pete Rose.
They say I'm a legend in my own mind.
In your own mind? Well, I think you're in a lot of people's minds.
Pete, a summary thought on Stan the Man Musial. When you think of Stan, what comes to mind now?
I just the appreciation that you have for him, what he did on the field, and what I always admired about Stan is the kind of type of individual he was off the field. And that's one reason I really enjoy going to St. Louis, because, you know, we stay at the hotel right across from the ballpark, and it's just awesome when you walk to the ballpark every day and you got to go past that statue there. It's something that, you know, I blew one of those when I left Cincinnati, but, you know, to have a statue of yourself in front of a ballpark, It's because he's just a class guy on and off the field.
Stan, how about you with...
Yes, well, I followed Pete's career all these 18 years. I'm happy he set this National League hit record. He deserved it. He's a hustling ball player. I think overall, Pete, his desire and love of baseball, which we all do, why Pete exemplifies all that, and we're proud to be with him.
Appreciate it.
Stan and Pete, we've been talking about the last hits in your respective careers. Let's talk about Dave's hitting career. Your first hit. Who was it off?
Camille Pasquale. Yeah, it was a curveball.
The nature of baseball is that you couldn't make anything like the following statement about another sport. Stan Musial's career began in 1941. His last year was Pete Rose's rookie year. His last base hit went past a lunging rookie second baseman named Pete Rose on an uninterrupted string of seasons from 1941 through 1986, unless you count a year that Stan might have missed in the service. But essentially from 41 through 86, those two ball players, linked by one's final year and the other's rookie year, produced just between the two of them almost 8,000 lifetime hits.
To Philadelphia's Veterans Stadium and headlines from the here and now. Compliments of Mr. Pete Rose, recipient of this week's Gillette Special. Behind the roar of 60,561 fans, something funny happened on the way to breaking Stan the Man's record. Rose led off the first inning with this bouncer. Now, was it a hit or an error? Well, the fireworks might have indicated a base hit, but it was clearly an error. Not only on the shortstop, but also the pyrotechnicians. Them's the fellers that work the fireworks. Finally, in the 8th inning, Pete stroked the clean hit everyone had come to see. This time, the message was loud and clear. No National Leaguer ever totaled more career hits. There were congratulations and ovations from all.
Hello.
Hello.
Pete Rose?
Yes, sir.
This is Ronald Reagan.
How you doing?
Well, I don't know. I'll tell you. I've had as much trouble getting this line, or a lot. I think I had to wait longer than you did to break the record.
Well, we were going to give you 5 more minutes, and that was it.
We've been having some trouble here getting through, and I just wanted to call and congratulate you. I know how you must feel, and I think it's great.
Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate it, and I know that you're a baseball fan, and we appreciate you taking time out to call us here in Philadelphia. I know all the fans appreciate it, and Pete Rose and Pete Rose II appreciate it, too.
Mighty like a rose. That's all for now, folks. See you next week on This Week in
Bird Chatter. I'm Mike Allen. Subscribe to our channel for all our compilation videos.